black business owners collapsed by 41%. Black business because of lockdowns. Do you care yet? When are you going to care? Do they all have to be trans? When are you going to care about these workers? What are you going to care about? What are you going to care about this?
They have to be trans for me to care.
You don't care. You don't care. Why don't you care about this?
Why would you accuse me? Of course I care about it.
You're saying it's not important.
Jimmy Dore just had an interview with Dr. Cornel West, and things went south really quickly. I first saw the clip that says he's super out of touch, and I watched it, and I was very surprised by what Dr. Cornel West is saying, but my experience told me, go and watch the whole video and see if this is really the context that it appears to be. So I went back and I watched Jimmy Dore's video. Cornel West does 45-minute commercial for Joe Biden. And I listened to this interview, and I objectively heard both sides. And I have to tell you that Jimmy Dore overreacted in this interview with Dr. Cornel West. Dr. Cornel West did not say that the COVID situation was not important. He never said that. What happens is Jimmy Dore is listening with his feelings and he's not listening with his ears. What Jimmy Dore said was,
the biggest story of my lifetime, if it wasn't Russiagate, the second biggest story is probably the COVID lockdown, if not the biggest.
And Dr. Cornel West says,
I must say, you see, this is where you and I do in some ways live in different worlds, because as crucial and as important as the issue of vaccines and the COVID situation was, when you say that's probably the most important issue in your lifetime or in the last 25 or 30 years, in light of all the wars, in light of what Palestinians are going through, in light of what workers are going through. 63% of them are living paycheck to paycheck in terms of all the vicious attacks of the police and the murders and so forth. Yet this vaccine issue is the most important thing. I say, okay, that's my dear brother Jimmy. He's got a right to raise his voice. I'm not going to in any way push it away, but I just live in a different world. As important as vaccines have been, if I had another chance, I'd be leaning much more with the Black caucus. But when I think of the weightiest issues, vaccines does not come immediately to mind.
And many other things he said that he felt was a more important issue in his lifetime. Jimmy Dore actually began to overreact and interrupt Dr. Cornel West and suggest to him that he doesn't give a damn about it. What's it going to take for you to care about it? And that's 100% not what he said. Now, I understood also, let me be fair, what Jimmy Dore's argument was. But as I begin to unpack this, you need to pay attention to the fact that Jimmy Dore is only speaking from his perspective, and he's not paying attention to Cornel West's perspective. Let me show you how Jimmy Dore is wrong. He's wrong because prior to him getting injured by the doses, he did not have the same position that he now has. He was on the other side of the people saying, go along with everything that you've been told. It wasn't until he got hurt that this became such an issue for him. When he was injured and when it affected his life directly, suddenly he turns around and he's campaigning hard against it. And rightly so, in my opinion, might I add. I'm not saying that he's doing something wrong. But what I'm saying is, look what it took for you to realize that this is such an important issue. It had to be something that affected you. And because it affected you, you care about it so much. What Dr. Cornel West is saying is, I've gone through things that have affected me. These issues that you're just brushing off as some kind of identity politics, that might be what it is to you, but you haven't experienced what I've experienced.
A utilitarian calculation. I can't say nothing because these people over here somehow are alienated. I'm telling the truth. I'm fighting for justice. And if people feel as if to talk about white supremacy is alienating, then they're going to be alienated. I'm talking about my mama. I'm talking about my daddy. This ain't no abstract dialogue about politics in the Machiavellian sense.
And what he's telling you is his experience, the experience that he's gone through in his life is what led him to say that this is an important issue. Now, Jimmy Dore's argument is, okay, well, if you say that, you're going to lose a whole bunch of people. And that might be true, actually. That might be true. But in the same sense, if you start speaking about the pandemic and everything that happened in that circumstance, you're also going to lose a lot of people, because everybody does not agree that the government and everybody who was involved in it was doing something wrong. A lot of people do not agree with that stance. Whether you have the proof that they're wrong or not, you're still going to lose people. So in actuality, both Jimmy Dore and Dr. Cornel West have stances on something that they will say that will lose people. However, Jimmy is extremely adamant, even to the point where it got disrespectful, because Dr. Cornel West did not take his point of view. Now let me go a little further. You see how Jimmy was saying you're going to offend people when you take that stance? He's already been offending people, and he probably doesn't know it. Jimmy, if you don't know, let me direct you to Phil Scott. Phil Scott has a channel called African Diaspora News, and he has 1 million followers on his YouTube channel. And in addition to that, all over the world, a lot of black people watch Phil Scott. And he heard something that you said, and it rubbed him and many other people the wrong way about you. And he actually did a video about it, and many people have seen that video.
Yeah, there was a video that came across my desk of Jimmy Dore. Now, some of you say, who is this guy? The first time I seen this guy, long time ago, when I used to at least glance at the Young Turks, he was working over there for about 10 years. So someone wanted Jimmy Dore to talk about the bill and talk about what Cori Bush was presenting. Now, I want you to not only listen to what he says, but I want you to listen very carefully to the spirit behind what he's saying. Just listen, but let's go ahead and roll that clip.
Jimmy, can you do an episode on Missouri Democrat Representative Cori Bush has introduced new legislation calling for $14 trillion in reparations for Black Americans? Ron Martin, thank you for the rec.
How about we call for get them health care and a living wage first?
I think I like health care and a living wage for all my brothers and sisters.
How about we try to get them a health care and a living wage before we try to get something that's unbelievably divisive? How about that? Can we get them health care and a living wage? Because that would help black people more than anything.
Do you see what I meant about the spirit behind what he's saying? He was angry, completely angry that someone asking him to cover that. And he feels in his mind that he knows what black people need. He knows. And he says that you black people and me, we need livable wages and health care, because that's what he said that we need.
So you don't realize that the things that you're saying is causing you to lose people. But yet you want Dr. Cornel West to be conscious of the fact that things that he can say can lose people. You're both doing the same thing. It's just different sides of whatever coin. There are actually people making videos now who are also expressing the fact that they were very disappointed with the way that Jimmy Dore handled this. And I heard it, and I was kind of surprised myself. Do I believe that the whole pandemic situation and everything that went on with it, the doses, the restrictions, do I think that it was something that is very, very significant? Yes, it is to me. But Dr. Cornel West didn't say it wasn't significant. He just said out of everything in his lifetime, it wasn't the thing that was the most significant to him in his entire life. So, Jimmy, you really messed up in this interview. You disrespected this man and talked about you love him. If you loved him, you wouldn't be saying everything that you said. What you love is your own way. You love your opinion. You love your stance. You love what you feel strongly about. You love him because he was talking the things that you liked. But now when he says something that you don't like, you completely flip. That's not real love. And that's all I got to say, guys. I'm on to the next one. Peace.